I just want to start by saying that I think art, business, and technology are like intrinsically linked. Each area is looking to sort of solve problems and address areas of change that they see in the world, or they want to see in the world. So art is play, play is exploration, exploration is progress, and I think AI is definitely progress. I'm Brad. I'm currently a degree fine art student at the university. I've also done the creative computing diploma, which is basically like algorithmic art, augmented reality, virtual reality, and little bits of code here and there. Materials I work in are sculpture, painting, tech, and stuff that's up there basically. I don't need to list it all out. The concepts I sort of cover are philosophy, sociology, anything to do with the mind, because I have borderline personality disorder, which is basically a weird brain. That's why I've chosen art. The symptoms of this can be a bloody nightmare sometimes. So it feels kind of a little bit shaky. Like social anxiety is like a big part of it. So just this here, right? It's like, okay. Some of the symptoms are emotional instability. So basically, like for a day, I can go from like, yeah, to, oh my God, this is the worst. And it finishes being like a spill of coffee, something like that. This does patterns of thinking or perception, like that's the true psychosis. So particular like downtime stuff hasn't happened for like a decade. But I see shadow people and think they're real because my brain knows. I'm prone to impulsive behaviour, so my 20 sounds a lot of alcohol abuse and drug abuse. Luckily, again, don't do that anymore. But it's not all doom and gloom. Sometimes there are positives, so I'm highly empathetic and perceptive because I really feel my emotions, because I don't have a sort of emotional barrier. I sort of understand when other people might be hiding it, so I can sort of say like, hey, you don't feel too good, let's coax out wine if you want to talk about it. And because of all that emotional turmoil, that pushes me into being an artist and creative, and I've found that basically challenging my brain constantly stops me from ruminating down into a spiral. So how do I use AI to help? So I use it as a collaborator. So loads of ideas I have, they will start as like a small seed. They'll keep growing and growing and growing. And sometimes in art, you need to know when to step it back, because otherwise you might put lasers in eyes or things. That will become apparent in a minute. So with BPD, like one of the things you're constantly worried about is like, oh God, are people judging me? Do they hate me? If my son says something wrong? But because I am just a machine, it's not sentient yet. It's impartial, non-judgmental, and because of that, like I take all this feedback as objective and constructive. One of the other things I suffer with is basically like choice paralysis. Like there's so many options and things to learn out there. Like we have the internet and we now have AI that can teach us anything we want to. So being able to ask it to be like, right, I want to learn about this subject with this particular link to it. Can you recommend a book or a series of books? And then I'll download that particularly. Save library, didn't hear it here. If I'm also like, I basically use it as like therapy light as well. Because therapists are expensive, so if it's just like a little problem, I can just be like, hey, ChatGPT, what do you think about this? And it's like, go to therapy. So how do I use AI with my art? Most of you probably imagine in pictures. Nope. So with my interest in philosophy, I wanted to create a model that allowed people to talk to Jungian archetypes. So, like, because Jung talks about duality, and a lot of my practice focuses on balance, hence the little plus-minus sign. It's about like balance between opposites. It's like the ultimate place to be. I decided to create this model called the philosopher, which I'll now give you an example of. So this is on a Raspberry Pi, which is then on a touchscreen. So you touch it, talk to it, and then once you touch it, it will tell you that it's listening to you. And I've built this into like an installation piece as well.
Tell me, what is life?
And because this was built before the text-to-speech model was done, so I've used 11 apps to build this. So there's a bit of a lag between them. And then, tell me the truth.
Life is a journey, an ever-changing tableau encompassing growth, experiences, connections, learning, and the perpetual striving towards understanding and meaning.
I basically told it to be a cyber shaman and dish out advice that nobody asked for. So I built that into this large-scale sculpture. This stands about 1 metre tall, comes out of the wall by about 1.5 feet. All of the code for this, the LEDs around the side, to get the eyes to change every now and then between frames, that is all written with AI, basically, like just ChatGPT. Originally it was 3.5, and it was like a lot back and forth, just to build the LED matrix part of this, as well as the AI model. I think the AI model took 3.5 weeks with 3.5, and it was after that, shit like in January, I was like, I'm actually just going to pay for GPT-4. Now it takes about 3 hours. So yeah, it's definitely an improvement there. So the initial plan for the AI system was to use that touch to talk thing, whereas now I have a series of masks, each one representing a particular unique archetype, like the mother, the good king, the magician, etc., etc. And now what users will do is they'll pick up one of these faces and they'll put it onto a plinth in front of it, that trigger an LED matrix. But each face has with it coded a separate AI model. So one's like the sage, one is basically those archetypes I just said a second ago. So users will basically put the mask down, read an NFC card, which is linked to the model, and then they can converse that, and they will talk between 4 to 5 times with the participant, just so it doesn't take up too much time. Otherwise, people might spend the entire day there trying to improve everything about their lives. So this one here, the transcribe real time uses Google API, and then it goes through to the user response with ChatGPT. At the moment, I'm using 11 apps for the voice model, because it sounds really spiritual, and there's something about a spiritual machine, which is like Matrix-esque, a bit terrifying to people. Like, I've had 2 responses from students who are seen at uni, and they're basically like, oh, this is amazing, or oh my god, this is terrifying. And I like both of those responses. Luckily as well, because I'm using a lot of new APIs like 11 Labs and I think GPT-4, it done like an update in January. But because GPT-4 isn't updated to that, I had to basically go onto the documentation of the OpenAI and 11 Labs websites and just copied and pasted the documentation into ChatGPT. And it was like, oh, so now I understand, here's how to implement that. I'm not that good at coding. Most of this is just being like, oh, you've broken this, how do I make it better? So the future, for me, is going to be creating more installations which are, like, my idea of art is that it should be accessible, like fine art concepts, like philosophy, trying to make those more mainstream seems quite difficult. Whereas building it into an interactive thing, which seems like a bit of a game, it sort of, I think it will bring more engagement. So it's basically taking that fine art principle of spreading ideas, and then basically taking like the fine art principles are quite lofty, but I think a lot of people in the fine art world are sort of quite like, oh, we need to keep this to ourselves. So bridging that gap, trying to bring philosophy to like more mainstream audiences through just something that they might step into that's outside of their everyday experience. I think that's going to hold a lot more potential. Yeah, I was going to say the rest of these things on here, but that's pretty self-explanatory because it's up there. I'm just excited. It's like, if I went back to my like 7-year-old self who was watching Back to the Future, it's like in like 30 years now. 30 years from now, you're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, there's going to be virtual reality, there's going to be augmented reality. My younger self would like just died on the spot. So. This is my nonsense, if you want to find me. And yeah, any questions? 6 seconds short, 10 minutes. Right.